Driving it home with Patti Vasquez, Patti Vasquez.
From global conflicts to greenhouse gases, the folks refusing to wear masks says, and politicians getting caught grabbing asses says, she's driving it home with Patti Vasquez.
And also Ben Cominos. Hi, how are you? And a special hello to Patty, who's probably listening right now on her way in. I promise, ladies and gentlemen, she'll be in momentarily. Until then, you're stuck with me for another segment or two. That traffic out there sure is a pain in the butt. For those of you that weren't listening yesterday, I'm Ben Cominos. I host Outside the Box at WHBY Radio in Appleton. I am filling in / co-hosting with Patty yesterday and today, and I gotta say, I'm still riding pretty high from the last 2 hours, and I hope you guys had an enjoyable experience as well, and I'm looking forward to doing it again today. As per usual, the phone lines are always open, 773-763-9278. That's 773-763-WCPT. I welcome any and all calls. It got heated yesterday, and I absolutely loved it. The text lines were rolling the whole time, and I want to keep that moving with you guys as well. We have got a lot to get into today that I barely even know where I want to start. But let's start with where we started yesterday. You know, I was highlighting for you guys a lawsuit that I thought wasn't getting enough coverage. And some of you listening may already know where I'm going with this if you are Capital One customers right now. I was highlighting for you that the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, the CFPB, was responsible for alleging a $2 billion lawsuit, highlighting ways in which Capital One was taking advantage of its customers, misrepresenting the interest rates that they would receive for funneling their money into those accounts. Well, lo and behold, just 24 short hours later, if you have not seen the complete meltdown that is taking place online, it looks as though anybody with direct deposits or trying to access their money from Capital One, 24 hours after the announcement, no longer had access to that money, which it's pretty suspicious when you stop and think about it. Now, I'm not listening as a full disclosure here. I am not a holder of a Capital One credit card. So just to be clear about that, I have no skin in this game. But as I stated for you guys yesterday, I'm always going to be coming for the working class and making sure that we're okay. Nobody had access to their money. It was a complete meltdown. This is what happens. This is what happens. They see a $2 billion lawsuit that seems to be alleging some pretty obvious misgivings that were on the Capital One website. And the next day, people no longer had access to their money. Go check if you haven't already. If you were expecting a direct deposit today, you may notice that there's nothing in there. Maybe you were depending on that money. Picture if you missed a payment for Capital One. How long would it take for them to start knocking down your door? Now we're on the other side of the equation. If you are a current customer, call them right now. Call them right now and demand that money, because that is exactly what they would be doing to you. I see we already got the phone lines going. Let's do it, Lady B. Dave, looks like you're first up here. What's happening, man?
Hey, Ben. Before I talk about what I was going to talk to you, kind of coattail what you're doing, I just had tonight, it's kind of a PSA for be on the lookout for on their phone for a text claiming to be from the Illinois Tollway, claiming that you got an unpaid toll, and that it was due today. It was sent by my phone today.
Wow.
To my phone, at 2:15. We've renewed, but never off of my phone. Also, the phone number, if you see this thing, starts with a plus 63. That's the code for the Philippines. We called the headquarters of the Illinois Tollway, and they said to disregard as we have plenty in our own account and delete as junk. So if you get anything like that, well, be aware, you know.
No, that's well, it's not awesome. It's not good at all, but it's awesome that you took the time to call and let us know that that's the case. I was not aware that that was happening. And they make this stuff look so real. I remember after Joe Biden announced the student loan forgiveness before the 22 midterms, I had already paid my student loans off at that point, and I was getting realistic calls from fake student loan officers trying to get my information. These guys are getting so high tech and so real with how these scams work that oftentimes people warn older generations. People my age and younger are absolutely just as susceptible. So I appreciate you spotlighting that, man. It's always good.
all of us in, CPT land,
Yeah.
that, and what I was going to mention about was they're talking about Joni Ernst. I don't know if you can recall. This was about 11 years ago. And she thought nothing of castrating hogs in the past. She bragged about it, saying, I grew up castrating hogs on an Iowa farm.
Yeah.
So when I get to Washington, I'll know how to cut pork. And I also said, let's make them squeal.
Yeah.
This was back in 2014. Yep, it was 11 years. And she did, and saying this, but her knife is kind of dull now when it comes to standing up to Boss Hog Trump there, and the MAGAs,
Yeah.
So.
No, yeah. Hey, I appreciate the insight, Dave. Always good to hear from you, man. I'm glad you called back. Thank you.
Yeah.
You take it easy, man.
Thanks, man. Be well.
Yeah, you too, bud. I think it's always important. I mean, that's the beautiful part. I was joking with some people on the administrative side here at CPT, and there's so many times, whether it be up in Appleton or in Pittsburgh, that there will be young people that come up to me and say, I wish there were a podcast that provided you with live updates of what's going on in the world so we're aware of what's going on. I'm like, you sons of you-know-whats, that's radio. What you're describing is radio. Put on your freaking radio, and it's moments like this that really highlight just how important this service is, and in my opinion, will always continue to be. We've got Jim in Chicago here. Jim, what's on your mind today, man?
Martin Luther King Day, an ironical day to have the inauguration for the president-elect. His father was arrested about 100 years ago in the 20s with a Ku Klux Klan outfit on and brought to jail for it. And his son hasn't fallen far from the tree. And recall who's bankrolling him. You've got the people that supported apartheid in Africa,
Sure,
that benefited from it. And then you have the John Birch Society. It's exclusively a lot of them out of Indiana, but those are the Koch brothers. They're putting their Project 2025 into operation.
Yep.
And they want to get rid of any kind of inclusion. I mean, it's a completely racist party. Well, it's been a racist party forever. I mean, think back to Reagan with the welfare queen in the limousine. That was his campaign. He campaigned on it.
Oh, yeah. He would say things like, I know a woman in Chicago with 3 kids and no jobs. He meant a black woman. He just didn't say it.
Yeah. Well, they actually showed a black woman in a Cadillac.
Right.
Going from nightclub to nightclub, an absolutely ridiculous thing when he couldn't get his hands on enough money, and then old man Bush with the Willie Horton ad. You see who got out of jail? Willie Horton. He murdered 30 people. In the meantime, this is supposed to be law and order. In the meantime, they're the most criminally insane individual entering the White House in American history. And absolutely a molester, an insane molester who's molested God knows how many women, rape. What else? Overthrowing elections, 34 counts of fraud. Anybody else would be in jail for 1,000 years. And he's entering the White House as President of the United States. That's how insane we are. But what really beef is, why did 15 million Democrats not vote? I haven't seen anybody articulate that argument. Why didn't they vote?
I could give you a dissertation on that.
What's your explanation?
I talked about it a little bit yesterday. There's a couple of different factors that I think contribute to it. The one that sticks out to me, the one that sticks out to me as a millennial, as a 37-year-old, I highlighted yesterday that I am in the minority, that I don't have a whole lot of debt and I own a home and all these things are happening. I've been doing my show for 2 years, screaming for anyone that would hear, if Joe Biden is going to run on Bidenomics is working, there is no empirical data. There's statistical data. Inflation's down, stock market up, unemployment down. There's statistical data, but the lived experience of what people are going through is not good. People do not see an avenue to owning homes.
I don't believe that for a moment. First of all, they stayed home. I've never seen an election where when Biden got 81 million votes and you peeled down 11 or 12 million votes. You could tell me that they sat at home and said, "I'll wait 4 years until the."
Well, Jim, let me
I don't believe that.
Let me present you a second position here. Then in Michigan. 102,000 people when Joe Biden was still in the election. 102,000 people voted uncommitted, said stop the genocide or we're not showing up.
We know that. We know.
Okay, and Harris lost by 82,000 votes in that state.
But that's not the. But that was in Michigan. But that's not the reason.
You keep saying it's not the reason. I'm providing you several reasons. You're telling me.
But now that's like, come on. Are you kidding? 50 years from now, they will be absolutely missed by trying to figure out why these voters stayed home, and it wasn't the Middle East.
I think you don't want to hear it, Jim. I think you don't want to hear the reasons why they stayed home. I'm going to be real with you, man.
What do you mean I don't want to hear the reasons? I can understand the reasons. I voted for many, many years. I can understand reasoning.
Okay,
There's no reasoning behind this.
I just provided two. Just provided two reasons.
Well, who would vote for Trump? Who in God's name? If you were an American and you had an idea of history, American history, would you allow this guy to enter the White House, a molester?
Of course not. Of course not.
All right, then there is no criteria. There is no criteria for it. There isn't. If you're an American,
it's not like these people switched over to Trump, though. These people said, F this, the Democrats don't mean business, and Trump is obviously trash, so I'm just going to stay home. That's what ended up happening. We had polling numbers yesterday. 29% of people between 18 and 29 said we did not vote because of specifically Gaza.
But that not voting put this molester in the White House.
Right.
So they could thank themselves. They put him in the White House.
They absolutely did.
They put this criminal in the White House and let these racists run the show. That's all I got to say. Anyway, have a good weekend.
Yeah, you too, bud. I appreciate the call. I don't know what you guys want me to say. You know what's crazy? There's a guy from West Virginia that calls my show regularly up in Appleton, and I told him for a year, I said, look at the footage of the Supreme Court election in 2023 in Wisconsin. There was a line in Eau Claire, Wisconsin. Some of you probably don't even know where that is. There is a UW campus there. The video of the line of young college people to vote in a 2023 off-year April election for a Supreme Court was a minute and a half long. That's how long it took them to show the entire line. And I was saying for a year, these young people are ticked. Their futures are getting messed with. They're not happy about tax dollars going to support genocide, and they're not going to show up. And there were countless boomers telling me we do not need Gen Z to win this election. Turns out we did. That is how we ended up here. That is why we're dealing with what we're dealing today. I'm not happy about it, but ignoring what happened is not going to put us in a position to be able to fix it going forward, and that's what I'm about. We are late for break. John, I see you on the phone. We got a couple of texts as well. We're going to keep this rolling here just a little bit. You're listening to Drive It Home with Patti Vasquez with Ben Cominos here on WCPT.
Choose Views with Richard Chew.
Roe v. Wade being snatched from us as a society. And when I say that, I'm a little upset with the guys out here. Where you at, guys? Why aren't you standing up for the women you say you respect and love and care so much about? I'm calling out men. Where are you to support women who are in need on this subject? Women need us now more than ever when it comes to this conversation of a woman's right to choose.
Richard Chew. Weekday mornings at 6 on WCPT 820.
This is WCPT 820, where facts matter.
You're listening to Driving It Home with Patti Vasquez.
In your communities, in Chicago.
On WCPT 820.
Well, that was an adventure. Hi, everybody. This is Patty joining Ben Cominos, host of Outside the Box on WHBY. Ben, it really worked out that you were here.
I know. Tell me about it.
I did a really stupid thing. Hi.
Yeah.
I would not. Okay, so I went to. First of all, let me start with this. I don't know what order to do this because I was out of town to do a gig in Champaign, Urbana, which is the home of my alma mater. I went to the University of Illinois, and I had a spectacular evening of comedy, and I went to a bar I haven't been to in 32 years, and it looks exactly the same. It's one of the few bars left on Green Street that I used to go to. But before I left, I missed my Metra to get to where the people that were driving. I was going to meet them there, and I missed my train. I'm like, all right, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to leave my car here, which either way, this would have worked out the same way. Because I was like, I'll leave the car here. There's a sign on Milwaukee Avenue, and I only read the second half of it. I'm a gist reader, but I thought that I was a gist reader when it comes to much longer paragraphs. Apparently 4 lines is all it takes for me to not really consume the information.
Oh, yeah. You're talking to a chronic email skimmer, so I get that. You got to put the important information in the first 2 sentences or it is not happening. So I get that. I get that.
Well, it's like no parking between this, and everyone in Chicago knows this. And so, folks, you're like, oh, you fell for it. Like, it's happened to me a couple times, like once in the 90s.
Going back that far, huh?
Yeah, that's how long. Those are the 2 times I've ever done this. So, so yesterday I'm like, well, I'll leave the car here because when I'll take Metro back from Union Station because I was taking Amtrak back today. Anyway, long as you can tell, I got towed. So I would not have gone and gotten the car today had I not known you were here. I could push my luck and start the show. I would have had to leave it there and be there at night.
Oh no!
I never want to go to a Chicago tow lot.
I can believe that. I can believe that. For what it's worth, we kind of are kindred spirits in this. I came in here this morning. I did my outside the box show from Matt's office. Right. I had a tie line set up and all that. Just parked my car. Didn't think anything of it. I'm oblivious because I'm still tired from the night before.
Sure.
I get out. I'm talking to Mark, her general manager. He goes, "How was the parking spot?" I was like, "It was good." He was like, "Oh, that's reserved for the general manager." And I said, "Oh, is there
a sign?"
I said, "Is there a sign?" And he said, "Why don't you go take a look?" So I'm just saying it was a power play, and that I intended to do it.
So we have a complete disregard for any notifications when it comes to.
I got my start in radio and promotions, and I also drove for Uber, Lyft, and DoorDash for a couple years. And both of those jobs permit you to park wherever the hell you want when you feel like it.
Right?
I think. That's what I did. So it kind of carried over from there.
Oh my God.
But yeah, so I get you. I get what you're. That's terrible. That's a terrible scenario to be in. Thankfully, Mark didn't tow me, but that's terrible.
Yeah, no kidding, right? Yeah. And it was so fun. And you have to call, right? To call the city of Chicago, and that's a nightmare because like one line that you call like is automated and it just dumps you out. You have 2 choices, right? And I'm like, well, I'm going to call this other number because I got dumped out of the system like 3 times trying to find out what lot because I'm telling you, Ben, like some of the lots in Chicago that I've had to retrieve my car from, like one's in Blue Island. One is like, I think it's like one of the rings in Dante's Inferno because it's underneath. Have you ever seen The Dark Knight, right? Where, those races like we have lower levels, we have lower whacker, but there isn't just lower whacker. I didn't know until I had my car towed to lower. There's more layers underneath.
That's where Satan's stuck in the freezing pond.
Pretty much.
And
I have to tell you, I felt so lucky that my winning lot was 701 North Sacramento, which is just a mud lot. It's just at least there's some sunshine. There's a trailer where there were probably about 30 people. When I got there, the person being served was 180, and I picked the number 191. So it was 11 people in front of me. It took about an hour and a half to get to me, and it was just a lot. It was a lot.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It was very hard for me to not like perform for everybody in the trailer and annoy everyone. So selectively, I would, I talked to the guy. I was like, I'm here to pay my stupid tax.
Yeah.
I'm a stupid person. I did a stupid thing. And then sometimes when people would get their pink slip to go show to the guard to get their car, I'd be like, congratulations.
Well, hey, we should double down on the stupid tax and go play 701 in the lottery right now. Right. I think that's the good luck number. So we'll just double down on that.
And then I'm in my car and traffic is horrible. It's awful. And then I hear you talking about Capital One and this lawsuit. I've been so out of it for 24 hours. And so I did pay for my tow with a Capital One credit card.
Oh.
Because that's the one I got a lot of.
Do you have the 360 performance account? Do you have a 360? If you do, you absolutely are going to be eligible. If this ends up hitting, you're eligible for money.
I don't know if it's a 360. I have 2. I don't know if I have 360. I'll take a look.
Yeah, I started the show yesterday because that was when the lawsuit came out, and there were people today all over the internet livid. They were livid. No one could get their money. There's people who are going to get dinged on their credit score because their credit card company isn't processing their money.
Well, because it's direct. You said direct deposit.
Yes.
So I don't do any of that with them.
That's an after effect because people are saying they're getting sued for $2 billion, and people are claiming where are they going to get the money? They're keeping our direct
They're doing a rush on their own money. they're like.
That's kind of how it feels. This is all alleged right now. Important to say on the airwaves. This is all alleged right now.
I like how your brain works. Where you think that you have to say those kinds of things.
Yeah.
I don't know how that works.
But yeah, so that's where we're at right now. I don't want to make them. I talk way too much crap on way too many companies to not throw the allegedlys out there when it's alleged.
There, and you're a bad influence on me, but I am getting there. I wrote, you and I, so if you check out Monaco Brewing Company's website, go to monacobrewing.com, monacobrewingcompany.com. Ben Cominos and I both are contributors to the newsletter, and so I really did go down a rabbit hole. We'll talk about that after we get to, let's take another call, because we've got John Hammond on the line. John, you're on with me and Ben Cominos, host of Outside the Box, guest co-hosting with me. How you doing?
Evening.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey, okay. Hey, Patty, nice to hear you. And Ben, it's a pleasure hearing you and talking with you again. I tell you, Patty, I don't know where you found this guy, but he's a bolt of lightning, man.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. We're going to find a way to fit him in.
He's the spark we need.
Yeah, I agree.
He's a spark. He's a definite spark, and he's kicking us all in the backside and pushing us where we need to go, and I really appreciate it. I mean that.
I appreciate that, man.
Hey, and just a quick one on this credit card thing. The only thing I could tell you is I'm in my garage I got a couple of stray cats. I got them in the garage warming them up. But anyway, think about it. The economy, people are struggling. Going to some of the things you said yesterday, Ben, I mean, the reality is people are living off of credit cards.
Yeah. Very true.
And so, it's a big deal. I mean, this is the world we live in. I'm dipping into my savings just to keep up in my 401k, and I don't want to, but this is what happens.
Oh, I'm so sorry about that.
No, I get it. The writing was on the wall for years. Honestly, I joke I'm the canary in the coal mine. It was to me, the writing was on the wall in early January when Republicans took the House, and we knew there was going to be no reform after that. I was like, well, we either need to acknowledge that this is bad or no one's buying the Bidenomics is working. Again, the metrics were there. The lived experience wasn't. And that it seems to have borne true. We got some texts as well that seem to disagree, but that's the way I see it.
Well, I didn't have a chance to listen yesterday, but I was talking to some young folks in their 20s when I was at the bar in Champaign-Urbana, and I was talking to them about like what it was like in the 90s. I mean, I was lifeguarding for $5.25 an hour, and my rent was $175, and so you could work 20, 30 hours and have money for everything.
I was living in 2010. I was living in the most fun part of Pittsburgh. Awesome view, bars everywhere, young people everywhere, sharing it with 3 other guys that went to college with me, $300 a pop. $1,200 to live in the best part. We had a whole house with plenty of rooms. That was 14 years ago, 15 years ago.
Yeah, and it is, I mean, we were feeling that sort of the crushing. I think the effects of all the things that we talk about, the hoarding of wealth by the top 10%, whether the way the credit card companies basically, when you want to look for a house, you're not looking for a house to buy. You're looking for a house the bank will let you live in.
Yes. No, that's exactly right. And honestly, I actually have some audio that we should use for next segment. I think backs up that this is only going to get worse before it gets better.
John, what kind of cat do you have?
Oh, I got they're alley cats, okay?
Oh, you're a good man.
Them.
Aw.
I'm insulting them, but they're cute. It's like you remember the old circuses? When I was a kid, I went to a lot of circuses for some odd reason. And you remember the old lion tamer act?
Sure.
So that's the way it is. I've got a few. I'm a lion tamer.
I love that.
And these are wild cats, and especially the big tomcat. He's got teeth that are and they're big, and but they let me handle them, and I work with them. And anyway, I don't want to talk too loud because the city beyond me. So
well, no, here, but when you said you went to a lot of circuses when you were a kid, so I remember going to the Medina Temple for the Shriners. Wasn't there a Shriner circus? And then there was obviously the Barnum and Bailey, because the Medina Temple became a Bloomingdale's for a while, and now it's a casino. And this is where we, as kids, we got to go see a circus.
Sounds about right.
Yeah,
but yeah,
exactly. Kind of pertinent to our conversation.
Right.
But yeah, I did too.
Well,
yeah.
And well, actually, what it was I lived next to a Carmelite orphanage run by Carmelite nuns.
Oh.
And so anytime there was a circus within about 50 miles of Chicago, they got free tickets. And so my mom worked at the Carmelite home for boys, and so I always went with the boys to the circuses. So I probably went to more circuses than anybody.
That's great.
And the one thing I'll just say quickly about cats is, they're predators.
Yep.
And they have their own cat culture, and but if you show you're the bigger boss, and they're like dogs, they will respond.
Fall in line.
Yeah, they will respond. But the reason for the call is I just want to follow up with Ben on one comment yesterday about, yeah, I know, hang on.
No, John and I are cool. John and I were cool.
Yeah. No, here's the thing. See, back in the 60s, we had the Vietnam War. And I remember it very clearly in the early 70s. And come to find out, a lot of people that were protesting, why? I asked the question, why were they against the war? And if you could just do a Google search, you'll see that it's because there were moral issues. Obviously, people didn't want to die. We had 55,000 fatalities. It was at 53,000, but a lot of good young people died in Vietnam. Not to mention the Vietnam is almost 1 million people dead. And there was a moral issue. But then we have these wars going on now. I don't want to get into details, but the thing that gets me is I see people, I'm not going to name, like Jane Fonda, for example, who was, fervently against the Vietnam War, but yet she supports this administration's foreign policy. And I asked myself this question, and a lot of others too. And I said, why are they like that? And come to find out, what I realized was, in my own mind, it's my own opinion, is that most of the people, and not Jane Fonda because she wouldn't have served, but most young men in particular, didn't want to go to Vietnam and were against the war because they didn't want to die.
Of course.
Right.
They didn't want to die. And so, but it's okay if somebody else is dying. But if you don't have to go and die, then it's okay. If somebody else is dying. But if you have to go and die, then it's a problem. So this is a point, which is, and one of the reasons why we got out of the Vietnam War was because of the graphic content coming out of that war. And so the point I'm really going at is, one of the things I've noticed in modern media is that they blur like graphic images of dead bodies and what have you. Well, we don't want to upset people. But it's the exact opposite. You want to see those images. You want to see the disturbing images because it will strengthen your will to eliminate the causes of those problems. Well, anyway, that's the point.
You know where the disturbing images are, John, is TikTok, which is why TikTok is about to get banned. That you're spot on. I think there's a lot of truth to what you said there. I think the internet is bridging a lot of gaps. I think it's harder to make pretend enemies when we know what's happening in other countries, and it's harder to get people to want to fight these wars now, and rightfully so. It should be a hard decision to make.
And it's not just foreign wars, but domestic issues.
Yeah.
You want to see. I would like to see. What happens when we have a serious accident. And I'll tell you, I'm going to a point here. You want to see. We never saw any of those images of those school kids getting shot. But hypothetically, and obviously, you got parents and relatives and everybody else. But the problem is, if you don't let some of those images out, then everybody just talks about it as, there was another school shooting, Yeah, isn't that a shame? But if you get that image in your mind of a little kid, getting shot, or somebody in a terrible car accident, it singes your brain, and then you say, well, wait a minute, what about safety issues? What are we going to do? It changes your outlook, and it changes your position on issues. Anyway, that's all I have to say, and I hope you folks have a nice evening, and be careful of the cold coming next week.
Yeah, no doubt. Thank you for your insight. Appreciate the conversation, John. Have a good night. Problem. Take care of those cats.
You too.
All right, take care.
Bye. I will.
Thank you.
Bye.
Let's take a break here. We'll continue our conversation. Joining me in studio, our fill-in host yesterday and guest co-hosting with me tonight is Ben Cominos, who apparently is heading back to Appleton as soon as he possibly can. Hey, have you checked out? We've talked about Frank's Pizza before, right?
No, I don't think if we have it blocked out. So I was taken to Joe's yesterday.
Oh, let's talk about that when we come back. I want to know what you think about Chicago pizza, because I think they do a pretty good job over at Joe's Pizza.
I agree, but I was told that wasn't the case.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'll tell you more.
All right, more in a moment on WCPT 820 Heartland Signal. We'll be right back after this. You can give us a call, 773-763-9278. Oh, I have to give away. Wait, before I go, I was told to do this in the first half hour. I hope that 35 minutes helps. We want you to. Oh no, let me wait. Right, we'll wait for the giving this away. Let's wait a minute. Let's take a break here on WCPT 820 Heartland Signal.
Stephanie Miller.
I've gotten more mail than I've never gotten in my entire life, because a lot of people have a lot to share and they can't always make it on the phone lines, or they're nervous. And trust me, whatever you're going through, me too. All of us. Wherever you are in your timeline. Drunk, sad, scared, angry. Right there with you. Thank you for people saying they're not listening to anybody but me. I think that's a good plan. Because I'm just like, blah, 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 blah.
Stephanie Miller. Weekday mornings, 8 to 11 on WCPT 820. You're listening to WCPT 820 because facts matter.
Patti Vasquez is taking your calls now at 773-763-9278. Driving it home with Patti Vasquez now on WCPT 820.
We are hanging out in studio with guest co-host Ben Cominos, my fill-in host yesterday. So happy to have him in studio because his brain works quickly and efficiently, and has so much information, and he's so passionate about what he's talking about. I love this conversation.
That's so nice. Yeah, thank you.
But I feel like you absorb so much. You're like, I have to tell somebody about this. Is that part of what makes you a host? Like, someone needs to hear this.
It's my therapy session.
Yes,
I do it every day. I just scream into the 2 months after November 5th was just. I can't believe I still have any listeners, because I just was so angry there was no news. Like, people appreciate that, like, I find the Capital One story. I'm like, guys, this is happening. Like, that's why they come and see me. And for 2 months straight, it was like, how did we get here? Just,
oh my God.
But yeah, I appreciate the compliment. I have no notes today too. This is just, let's go.
Well, that's why I felt bad to have you sort of thrown into the fire when I was running. Honestly, if I didn't have you here today, I would have just left my car and had to go into the the mud lot at night. But again, not as bad as anywhere else. But Steve, okay, I suspect that I don't know. Steve, how are you doing today, my friend? You're on with me and Ben Cominos. What's up?
Hello, Ben. Hello, Patty.
Hello.
Well, I wanted to follow up on Jim's call earlier.
Okay.
And to put it in some perspective, I'm a 58-year-old gay man. I lived through the 80s, the 90s, the aughts.
Got it.
And there were many times where, I was faced with two candidates, and neither candidate was giving me exactly what I wanted in terms of progress forward on equal rights. But instead of saying, well, since neither of them give me exactly what I want, I'm going to stay home, I figured out which candidate was closest to my position, and I supported them.
Right.
And I can guarantee you, if I had sat home and the other candidates had won, I would not be able to rent an apartment. I could be kicked out for being gay. I could lose a job for being gay. I would not be able to get married. Anybody who wanted to help women, men, gay men, blacks, Hispanics, Muslims who stayed home screwed us all over. As I said over and over again, if you are not going to vote for Harris, I hope that you and anybody you that loves it in Gaza has a safe place to escape, because Trump will let the Israelis bury them.
But that's what was happening already. I think that's why I totally am with you, and we're talking about 24-year-olds. They don't have the best common sense, and you and I are on the same page with how you're defining it. But if the choices we're either going to mostly support a genocide or really support a genocide, I can kind of understand why, if that was your number one issue, which according to polling says 1 in 3 were.
1 in 3 was Gaza?
Yeah.
Really?
9%
abortion.
If you had a brain in your head and you bothered to actually do the research, you would know that Biden was working towards peace, that was working towards protecting the Palestinians, and Trump was not. And that if you stayed home, you were voting for Trump.
I know that.
I think one of the examples I always use, I'm a student of history, and I had family in Nazi Germany. And the reason that Hitler got elected was because people didn't get together and go, we don't all agree on everything, but we've got to stop him. And that's how he got in, and that's how millions died. And, hundreds of thousands, if not millions again, will die because Trump doesn't care.
Oh, no doubt about that. No doubt about that. The carnage. I think the carnage will only increase. I mean, the idea they said he's the anti-war president, or somehow he's not going to start any more wars. He's going to end all the wars. It's all going to stop the day he's in office. Is absolute.
Yeah, but
crap.
If you didn't vote for Harris, you voted for Trump, and it's on your head.
I'm not going to argue with you.
Yeah, I get the logic.
Yeah. Thanks. Thank you, Steve. Have a great weekend.
Thank you. You too, sweetie.
Take care. Let me get to Roosevelt. Roosevelt, you're on with me and Ben Cominos. How are you? How you doing tonight on this wonderful Friday as the winds start to pick up and it gets colder in Chicago?
Yeah.
Fantastic. Oh, not fantastic, but at least
I like how we tempered it.
It's impossible. It's impossible to be fantastic because, I'm going to tell you guys something. I was listening to you guys and the callers, and that is, don't you feel? I mean, at least I do. Don't you feel something like in the back of your mind? It's like a bug, like something I don't know how to explain it. Like, something's going to happen, but you don't know what's going to happen or how bad it's going to be. So is there something that is not, to me, I'm analyzing myself, what I'm referring to is starting Monday. So, and I feel for my community because there's going to be, hopefully there won't be as many, but they're the first ones that are.
It'll be bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, it's like a bug, like something is bothering the back. Yeah, I'm not at ease. I'm being honest.
Yeah.
I'm not at ease.
Right.
So I'm going to start with that. But as far as what I've been thinking lately is, what is democracy going to look like in 4 years? What is going to happen in 2 years?
Well, it's going to matter what we do before those 2 years. That's the amount of time that Republicans have full control of all of it. I mean, there's just no getting around that. And what is it, a majority? How many? I don't know the number of red states that have essentially implemented prior to 2025, because then that also makes it so much harder to make any inroads there.
Sure. Yeah. Go ahead. You keep going.
Now, Ben, you and I got into it a little bit yesterday, and I firmly believe this. I'm going to repeat it because, I want to see what Patty's take is on this. This has been happening since Rush Limbaugh, and I mean the media. Yesterday, the lady that followed me, she's African-American, okay? We were trying to tell you, Ben, that we see it from a different point of view that you see it as far as racism. And I'm sorry to say, but I'm going to repeat myself, Ben, that was big. Racism was big. He started this thing with racism. He knew how to manipulate the people that were already racist and got his base right off the bat. That's my opinion. Okay, right off the bat.
And I don't want it to sound like I thought that racism wasn't a component. I'm just not willing to chalk it up as it was exclusively because of racism is where I'm at on it.
But here's where I differ. I'm different than you as far as that. The way I see it is like you're looking at, in my opinion, you're looking at it from the outside in, whereas we as Latinos, Hispanics, we're looking at it from the inside out. We've had the effects of racism, African Americans, more than any race for years because of the history of this country. So we were trying to tell you that we see what was moved, what was manipulated, he knew how to manipulate it to the point that I'm jumping to the media. You guys are talking about the media. There is going to be no media when it comes down, when this guy gets in there. He's going to squash everybody. Look at all the rich people, the multi-billionaires already bending the knee for him.
They're going to sit with him at the inauguration. They're all going to be sitting there. Ben and I think, would push back on how they're going to be that there won't be any media.
Yeah, and please hang on to all these billionaires that are going there. They're not, even if a Democrat wins in 2028 and they come back over, they're not your bleeping friends. Always remember that. Everyone thought Elon Musk was this super liberal doing electric cars. Everyone everyone thought Mark Zuckerberg was this super liberal pushing back against misinformation. They go with the flow. Remember that.
Because it was just if he only went because of billionaires, she had, what was it, 38 billionaires?
81,
sorry. 81. Ben has the number. He has the receipts. But, I mean, like, it's not exclusive to Trump, but it's the paths that they take that are more successful, because we know that rage sells, and that's what back to your point about Rush Limbaugh and building that empire between him, the Fox News networks, and now everything that's, OAN, News Nation, all those different, Sinclair saw the path, and they're like, we need to control the narrative, and people react better to this, and, they had their interest at heart, whoever within all those organizations. We don't have enough people in the right places doing what's right is part of the problem.
And we don't have the microphone either, because we don't have enough stations or enough, like I was telling Ben yesterday. And that's big, guys. When people I hear on the station and other stations where truckers and people that are driving cross country, where they hear constantly Fox News. It sticks, Ben.
But also, here's the thing. Do you remember, and I talked about this a lot when it happened with some of the testimony in the Dominion ballot box case, right, with the chips and stuff, when Fox executives and hosts were on the stand or in testimony and depositions, do you remember what they said? They said they have to lie to their audience, otherwise they won't listen to them. And because we tell the truth, it's not as compelling, it's not as interesting. We might be funny about it, or we might, have great interviews, but it's not the same as harnessing rage and fear the way they do.
And you hit a point, the most interesting point, and the most how can I say it? The one that is effective, and that is emotion. Yeah. Your emotions. They work the emotion. And that's why I was surprised how many people voted for this guy the first time around. That showed me, and they constantly said this on the family meeting. We've seen the underbelly of this country, what it is. And you have constantly, Ben, and I don't know if you agree with this, constantly Democrats, we're better than this. No. We are this. We are a racist country. We are a country that looks down on African Americans, that doesn't open up doors for Latinos or African Americans, and that's one of the reasons why this guy won again. And you cannot mention this enough. Money. Everything revolves around the buck, and that includes what you guys said earlier about billionaires. And you made a great point that I had not looked at it that way, Ben, and I thank you for it. And that is real right. All these guys, all these billionaires, we thought that they were progressives, liberal, whatever. And look, on a dime, they just spinned around, and now they're supporting Trump. Yeah. And it's all because of the money, and it's all because of the racism. And let's analyze all these billionaires. They're not even born in the United States. I'm not either. But they have the money to manipulate the election, to manipulate the who's going to be the winner, simply because of the fact of what you guys said earlier. And that is social media. They put the kibosh on people that have free-thinking young people, and they voted against Harris. All these young people voted. Why? Because they manipulated social media through money and ownership of social media. Elon Musk.
Let me say this. Because we talked about this before, and it was just a few weeks ago when I looked into Elon Musk, coming of age under apartheid in South Africa, and then realizing that Peter Thiel had also spent time in South Africa. So the racism element from for the most powerful people that were in that campaign all had been in South Africa and believed that possibly it is better, that that white people are superior, that we do need to isolate black people and make sure that they're not part of society in a functional way. So, which is
exactly what Israel believes, and Democrats backed up, which is why we run into issues. No one is debating anymore. Israel's an apartheid state. They look at the brown people that surround them. They deserve less. They don't get access to these streets. They don't get access to this. And Joe Biden and the Democratic Party said, look, they need to be able to defend themselves. This is what I'm highlighting, Roosevelt. I'm never saying that racism is not a part of this country. It absolutely, there is is no way you do the history of America or the present of America without talking about racism. The fact of the matter is, this apartheid, these attitudes are everywhere. The same stuff that you're talking about, the same stuff that Patty was just talking about, Democrats were engaging in. We have one texter right here that says that I'm missing the point. It should never be about one issue. The one issue was genocide. That was the one issue that was bothering people. Like, that is why people say it wasn't about racism. Donald Trump did not gain negligible amounts of votes. It was the Democrats just didn't encourage people to show up. They were backing up this kind of stuff that we believe. We believe it. They don't believe it. And we just need people that actually believe it.
I need to give you enough time for one more point because I've got to run to a break and take care of some business here.
I'm just gonna leave it like this with Ben, and that is that I agree with you up to a point, and I'll tell you why. But we're talking about another nation, which is Israel and sovereign nation. We cannot tell Israel what to do, Ben. Then we're no different than.
But then we can't judge Elon Musk for believing in apartheid either. If we can't tell Israel what to do, we can't tell South Africa what to do. Or we can. I agree with you. We shouldn't do it. But at the end of the day.
Ben, Israel is, look what we're talking about. Israel is a spoiled child of the world. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So no matter if it's a Democrat or Republican, we're going to back up Israel no matter what.
Yeah.
Sorry to say that, but it's the truth. So when you say that the Democrats are at fault, I don't know if I agree with it totally because of the fact that they play with us. They play from the sense of religion, and you got to back them up no matter what. And that's, I'm sorry to say, but we can't tell them what to do, especially because it's Israel. You cannot compare. One thing
in part because of their possession of nuclear weapons, I think, is another element to this.
Right, but also Israel we can't tell them what to do, but we absolutely do not have to use our tax dollars to provide them with weapons. It is a known fact. If we didn't give them the weapons, there absolutely would not be tens of thousands of dead people all over Gaza right now. We can say do whatever you want.
I hear that in Spanish constantly, and you're right. That played a big part, even in my community, because I heard it. I heard it from other Democrats in Spanish that genocide. The word genocide came up almost on a daily basis, and they were hanging it on Biden. So you're right about that.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it, man. Hey, I think we agree on more than we disagree here. I think we're seeing eye to eye here on this.
Absolutely.
I appreciate when you call in, man.
Thank you. And thank you, Patty. Have a nice weekend,
Thank
guys.
you, Roosevelt. So here's the thing. Ben really lights the phones up. I mean, we get the phones filled.
We got Jaquan in Appleton, too.
We got Jaquan. So let me say this because this is your last chance, folks. This is your very last chance to win the code for the live stream for the Stephanie Miller Sexy Liberal Comedy Tour from the Warner Theater in Washington, D.C., live on pay-per-view from the comfort of your home. That's right. From the comfort of your home. We're not sending you anywhere. We're not sending you airline tickets and all those other things. We're giving you a code if you win it, but you can also buy it. It's totally worth it. Join Stephanie Miller along with guest representative Jamie Raskin, George Conway, Olivia Troy, JoJo from Jers, and Capitol Police Officer Harry Dunn, along with regulars Hal Sparks, John Fugelsang, and Frangela on Saturday night. By the way, Stephanie Miller sent pictures of her flight to D.C., and it's packed with MAGA. You guys have got to follow Stephanie Miller on social media. She needs you to watch the live stream tomorrow because you're going to hear her vent about her flight. She's got folks that are just decked out in all MAGA gear. So at any rate, if you want to watch Stephanie Miller from home, these are live stream links, not tickets to the show. I'm going to say it again because they told me to say it again. WCPT can help you out. To purchase pay-per-view access, go to sexyliberal.com and click Save the World Comedy Tour banner. And we have a pair of tickets. We have a code to give away right now. One code. We have to clear. We can't do this right now. How do I do this? All right. Caller right now. 1, 2, 3, go. Whoever's on the line next wins the code for sexy. Because you fill up all the lines.
Yeah, I'm a rabble rouser.
You made my contest very complicated.
I apologize.
I know. I feel like I'm like, is that the only one I have to give? Fine. All right, let's take a break here. We'll be right back in a moment on WCPT 820 Heartland. So it's so fun. I'm sorry, everybody.
Alexa, play WCPT.
WCPT from TuneIn.
Patti Vasquez is taking your calls now at 773-763-9278. Driving it home with Patti Vasquez now on WCPT 820.
Driving it home with Patti Vasquez with Ben Cominos here on 820 WCPT.
And apparently introduce our caller, Ben. This is very exciting.
Yeah, so on line 5 here, Lady B, we have Jaquan out in Appleton. Jaquan, man, you never are able to call my show because your work schedule. I'm so glad we actually get to talk right now. What's going on, man?
Hi, Jaquan.
What's going on? Hi, Patty. Hi, Ben. Hey, I just wanted to, talk about, the only thing that confuses me about the last election is the fact that it was so even, 50-50. You know what I'm saying? Because I feel like at the end of the day, you could have put up a shoe versus a brick, and it would still be the same outcome. And until we get someone in here that can actually, cut to the root of the problem. For example, they're talking about grocery prices. What we need is a minimum EBT for everybody. You know what I'm saying? Whatever it costs, $100 a week. Everybody should get it. It shouldn't be means tested.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? Nothing like that. Everybody should just get it, in my opinion. I feel like that would get more votes. Actual policies, not milquetoast policies. You know what I mean? So,
what do you guys think about ranked choice voting? Because this is what we talk about, right? I mean, I think that if people have to run on their policies, because you would be forced to, because it's just not like who gets a winner take all kind of a situation. Because he got a plurality, not a majority. Right? Did he get a majority? He got a plurality.
It was a plurality. Yeah, it was below 50%. Yeah, ranked choice voting would be great, but Jaquan will tell you, I bring it up with my listeners, a lot of which are a little bit older, and they say, you millennials think you can reinvent the wheel. We've got a great system as is. And I was like, this is when Biden was still in. I was like, just to be clear, look at the candidates. Yeah. You're telling me that this is the best we can do.
Well, here's the thing. For maybe your older listeners, if they're fans, if they are of Irish descent at all, Ireland has a ranked choice voting.
Sure. A lot of people do it.
And they've
There's
been able to make a lot of reforms and help people.
Yeah, that's an understatement.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for taking my call.
Jaquan.
I always want to call into your show, but you said it always works. So
I know, man. It's awesome. I love seeing, I'll get texts from him at 7 p.m. I'll show up to work the next day, and I'll be like, oh, hey, what's up, man? And I'll use it for the show, but it's perfect.
Well, Jaquan, will you listen to my show? You can call into my show now. This works out very well.
Perfect.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I love it. Hey, take it easy, man.
I look forward to talking to you again. Thank you. Oh, that was wonderful.
Yeah, no, that was he sends paragraphs when he texts. It's very well thought out, and I like where his mind's at. Although with the 50-50 thing he's pointing out, I always highlight when George Washington was president, this is a crazy stat, he was responsible for less people than the mayor of Pittsburgh. Like, when the country was created, that's how small the population was. And we're sitting here saying, why can't we get 370 million people all moving in the same direction?
That's why I think ranked choice voting makes more sense.
Yeah, I agree.
With the density of population. We're going to take all of your calls when we come back. I've got to take a break here. But I also want to say hi to my friends that I met in Champaign-Urbana. Someone messaged me if it was Cams or Legends that got me in trouble. I was at Murphy's last night. Legends was actually not open, I believe, until 1998, and I graduated in 93. But I want to say hi to Paul, and I'm the gentleman at the bar from India, and I can't remember his name, so if he's listening, please text me. But man, I had some great conversations with some Gen Zers last night.
Oh, there we go.
That was wild. It was like they are keyed in, and they're concerned, man.
Oh yeah, it's very different than what millennials were at that stage of the game. Yeah. And
they get it. All right, let's take a break here. We'll continue our conversation with guest co-host Ben Cominos, host of Outside the Box on WHBY in Appleton, Wisconsin.
Chicago's Progressive Talk, WCPT 820, where facts matter.
Driving it home with Patti Vasquez, Patti Vasquez.
From global conflicts to greenhouse gases, the folks refusing to wear masks says, and politicians getting caught grabbing ass says, she's driving it home with Patti Vasquez.
Oh, man, I love Fridays, and today's is even better because Ben Cominos joins me as we continue to drive it home. He's the host of Outside the Box on WHBY. You can go to WHBY.com to find his show and find all of the recordings and podcasts of the show as well.
Yeah, or the app if you don't want to go on the website, just WHBY.
Why do you got to rub it in that you have an app?
Yeah, we're hoity-toity.
Okay, then fine.
Just search WHBY in Google Play or the App Store.
And the nice thing is we're also cross-promoting with another one of your neighbors. We are on right now on KTNF AM 950 Minneapolis, St. Paul in the evenings. We want to say hi to our friends on the Progressive Voice of Minnesota. Of course, Matt McNeil here on WCPT evenings at 9 o'clock. We got to find a philosopher, Ben. We got to find a Anyway.
You see a text. There's a mixture of get this guy off the air mixed with we need more of this guy's stats. So I think that's a good sign.
Well, let's see what the callers are saying. I'll get to the texts in a moment.
Fingers crossed.
And the nice thing is that Ben is actually reading these in real time, and he's being selective on what he'll address.
Oh, no, I'm just waiting. I'd run through all of them. You kidding me? I'll do all these. But I'm letting you steer the show.
Oh, sure,
and
we do that.
let me know when to read texts. I'll address all of these.
Thank you. I want to give folks a heads up here on WCPT 820 Heartland Signal, broadcasting out of Chicago. Also available anywhere you listen to your shows. You listen to all the shows podcast. We're also on the TuneIn app and Spotify. Coming up in just a few minutes, in 10 minutes, we're going to talk to Skipper Paris, who played Monty, the color guy in the movie Major League, alongside Bob Uecker. He was in both Major League 1 and 2. And we're going to talk about this remarkable man in our history.
I didn't get a chance to talk about it a lot yesterday, but just really quickly, and then we'll jump into it. I'm not being from the area. I know who Bob Uecker is. I was in the middle of my show when the announcement happened, and our news director, who's in his mid-50s, very stoic guy, very professional guy, comes in. He's like I'm in a commercial break. He says, Bob Uecker just passed away. I said, we'll do it right after this spot ends. He does it, and I could already hear it in his voice that it was happening. And so I asked him when he was done, not thinking anything of it. I said, take the professional hat off for a second. How are you doing? And he straight up just, and it's like, I'm an empath. So like, he was like, it's not like he was bawling, but there was absolutely emotion in the voice. It goes to show you it's sport, and it's easy to, especially in the soup we swim in, like not take it as seriously because it's sports. But clearly, there's an impact on so many people, and just seeing that was touching, to say the least.
Well, he was also, and maybe we'll play some audio later if I can figure out how to make it work again. But he was also a great guest on Johnny Carson. He was a great storyteller, and that's what a lot of folks also, in addition to not just being in the sports world, obviously people know him from Major League. Let's go to Myrna. Myrna, you're on with me and Ben Cominos. What's on your mind, my friend? Myrna? Oh.
First one?
Yes.
Hello?
Sorry, I didn't roll you up. Go ahead. What's on your mind, my friend?
Okay. 3 things. The first is the most important of all. Please, the two of you, before you leave the studio, please give Lady B a big hug on my part.
Oh, yes.
For celebrating
it's her anniversary. Yes.
Of being cancer free.
Oh, great.
Yes.
I'm so happy for her. And second thing, you had a caller earlier, a gentleman who said he was a gay man, reminded me, people who are upset with the village people because they're going to be performing at the inauguration, it's not them. The original members are all denying any association with the inauguration. One of the guys who was an original member, he was only with them for the first 4 months of the band's initial history. He went to court and won the right to use the name. But none of the members, except for him, are the original members of the village people. So just to get that out there, no hate against the village people, the actual original members.
They're just cosplaying as a village people.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And the third thing, people are commenting about the inauguration being moved indoors because of the weather. Sorry, guys. I know the actual reason. He is afraid that with the cold weather, as cold as it's going to be, the poop in his diapers is going to freeze to his skin.
Oh, God. I mean, the material the diapers are made of has a gelatinous quality, so I could see where, like, beyond that texture would also be magnified by the materials involved. Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah. Could you imagine all these macho manly men if Harris had won and we were moving the inauguration inside? What everyone would be saying?
She wouldn't have moved it inside.
Oh, now that we... okay, well, that's fair. But even if she had, they'd be like, oh, now that there's a woman president, we got to go inside because it's cold. Trump does it. And it's like, well, you can't be too careful. It really is funny how quick that light switch flips.
I am loving all the visuals of Amy Klobuchar when she announced her candidacy because it was snowing when she came out.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, so they've got her, like, apparently we can handle it. But sorry, what were you going to say, Myrna?
All right, that's it. Have a great weekend, everybody.
You too. Bye-bye.
Happy Friday.
Bye-bye.
And then Judy in Niles. Have you ever had Judy call in did you have her call in yesterday?
I don't think so. I don't remember. There were a lot.
You're on with me and Ben Cominos. What's on your mind, my friend?
Well, hi, Patty. Ben, I wanted to agree with you about pictures that we should show them. I am actually old enough to remember Emmett Till. I was in high school.
Yeah.
And his mother said that she did not want them to do a lot of work on him, and she left it open.
She wanted the world to see, yes.
He said, let them see what they've done to my child. And I think she had a good point. I really do. I don't know how she had the courage to do that, because I don't know that I would, but I really admired her for that. And so Ben, you got one. You made a point. If I could, I hope if I live to this summer, and God willing, and the creeks don't rise, that I'll be able to get you in on my radio at the lake. But I don't know. We're at the bottom of Adams County, and it's full of iron.
Oh, sure.
We have static that you wouldn't believe.
Yeah, hey, I hope you can. Judy, you seem like an awesome lady, and I would love to, I would love to hear from you on the show. I hope you can make it happen.
Yeah, sometime I'm going to call everybody from up there.
I love it. I love it. Yeah.
Now that we have a phone.
Yeah, that's all you need. That's all you need.
We used to had no phone all those years that my mother went up there. I mean, talk about a pioneer lady. She was a city girl, and my father took her up there for their honeymoon. And I said, ugh. This little lady up there to an outhouse that cold pump water for her honeymoon.
Oh, boy.
I said, I don't know. I think it would be better if you had sent all the relatives away and stayed home.
There you go.
Yeah, there it is.
Thank you, Judy. Have a great weekend. I want to get to a few of the texts.
If you want the real outside the box experience, you just I don't have a call screener, so I just say, Bop, what do you have to talk about?
Really?
Yeah, that's how I do the whole show.
You don't know the name of the callers?
No, we don't even have caller ID, so I'm like, it's a mystery every time when the phone's ringing, and I just pop it on and we just start talking. I don't even know what they want to talk about.
Do they tell your name or anything?
Yeah, some of them. I mean, like at this point,
Now, you were mentioning that you have a 2-minute limit with your listeners.
It's not a limit. If people have good points, I let it ride, or if like some really good discourse is taking place.
I mean, like I'm so bad at like, okay, I gotta go, and then like they get mad at me for saying I gotta go.
Yeah,
and I'm like, I gotta go.
Well, see, you have a much bigger list of people that seem to regularly interact. Like as far as like my regulars, I'd say it's like a dozen. And like at the end of the day, what I'm talking about tends to be pretty cyclical. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like I'm either talking about abortion access or housing costs or legalized marijuana or whatever the situation may be. And eventually I'm thinking of different angles, different parts of the story. But the people calling in, so they're
reacting to your take on it too.
Exactly, right. So it's enjoyable, but like I think it's what makes radio. Oh, that's a 412. That's
boy,
it's Pittsburgh.
Take
it. Take it.
I can't take it cold, Lady B. Can I take a call cold? Let me see.
Yeah, you can.
Hold on a second. Hello, listener. What do you want to talk about? You're on with me in bed, Cominos. That's so scary. Hi, how you doing? 412.
Hey.
Hi.
Who is this?
Ben?
Yeah.
Hey, Cynthia.
Cynthia, what's up?
Because I just laughed because, you I didn't know you picked up the phone blind, and he's probably like, oh, it's her again.
Cynthia is from Florida, actually. She was from Pittsburgh originally. We became friends at the Pittsburgh station, and she followed me to Wisconsin.
Aww.
Yeah, very hard. She probably is going to get me on a list. She's very big on foreign policy. What are you thinking right now, Cynthia?
I hope we survive the Trump presidency and Netanyahu's rage for not being invited to the inauguration.
Oh, I didn't even know that happened.
I wasn't aware. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
Well, then maybe he will go ahead with the peace deal before Trump takes over then.
No,
I know.
I've been reading the Israeli press for years, and I was reading. And I have a translator, so I can translate, Hebrew. And there's a Binet in Hebrew. They are only going to go along with the first part of stage 1, and then they're going to start attacking the Palestinians.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's bad.
Well, and then Donald can blame Biden for negotiating a bad deal. He'll find a way to blame him.
Yeah, probably.
Listen, but his son-in-law is already planning real estate deals.
You're talking Jared Kushner.
So it's all about. Jared Kushner. It's
Yeah.
all about the money for him. He's not doing anything out of the goodness of his heart. It's about making a buck. So if he can get them to stop, killing people, so his son-in-law could build his real estate projects. One world.
Yeah. Cynthia, I appreciate you listening this evening. That's
Thank
awesome.
you. I hope you listen to my show.
Keep listening to this show, Cynthia. You'd fit in well here.
Please. Absolutely will. Thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
All right,
Thank
take
you so
it
much.
easy.
See, we'll exchange. Have a great weekend. We'll exchange listeners now.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Let's take a break here. We'll check in with Skip Paris, and I know he's got some great stories about working with Bob Uecker on the film Major League and also the sequel Major League 2. More in a moment on WCPT 820 Heartland Signal, joined in studio by guest co-host Ben Cominos, host of Outside the Box on WHBY. Go to hby.com to catch his shows or download the WHBY app. More in a moment.
You're listening to WCPT 820.
You're listening to Driving It Home with Patti Vasquez.
In your communities, in Chicago.
On WCPT 820.
Thank you so much for joining us, and we continue to drive it home with guest co-host Ben Cominos. We're going to talk to Skip Paris in just a moment. If we can give Skip a call with the passing of Bob Uecker, we want to get his thoughts on what it was like to work with him, what his thoughts are on his passing. Ben was gracious enough to fill in for me last night, and I was in Champaign-Urbana, visited one of my favorite hangouts at Murphy's. It's funny because it was actually, I believe it has, when I was there, and it continues to be a 21 and over bar. So it was more of a hangout for grad students. So when I turned 21 and I hung out with a lot of grad students, they have these great old tables, and I believe they've probably been there the entire 75 years that the bar has been open. But it was really nice to hang out with the bartender, both bartenders who were very young, and one was a grad student or was looking to work in the food industry. The other young man he realized that his path he was going to be a chiropractor. One of the guys that was bartending at the bar at Murphy's last night in Champaign-Urbana, and he realized he doesn't like that path he's taken. He doesn't like the study. He doesn't like the work. And his family is has a rich military history, so he's going to join the Marines. When he's done, which I thought was kind of interesting. We talked about that. One young man who was in computer science, took him a year to get a job, and he showed us on his phone the 2,000 resumes that he had sent to all the companies that he had, like a whole spreadsheet.
Wow.
To 2,000, and what turned out to work was a friend of his who was working in Champaign-Urbana said, "Hey, I'm getting another job," and he goes, "Hey, can you give my resume for your spot?" And that's how he got a job. And it's really, that's the hard thing, is it's sometimes just about timing and being in the moment. Let's get to, do we have let me see if we can get Derek in South Elgin. Hey, Derek, what's on your mind, my friend?
Way to go, Patty. You skipped school yesterday. You come to class late today, and you come to students jumping out of their desk. Way to go.
Yeah.
Ben, it's been a pleasure listening host the show.
Thank you.
And you can relate to this. Donnie Trump, what a wimp. As Packer fans and Bear fans, I went to a game with my son 2 or 3 years ago, the last Sunday night game in Green Bay. It was below zero, and people showed up. Don't be a wimp, Donnie. Hold your inauguration outside.
That's just it. I went to school in the snow belt. I'm living in outside of Green Bay now. We know this is Chicago. We know what cold is, and this is what happens when you spend too much time at Mar-a-Lago. That's what ends up happening, is you can't handle the real temperatures anymore.
It's going to be 22 degrees. That's balmy.
Yeah, please.
Anyway,
I'll be in shorts.
I wanted to call yesterday, but it got late. One thing I wanted to talk about was the Citizens United. This tsunami of dark money is just killing our political process, our democratic process. I don't know how we're going to...
Wait, what'd you say was killing it there?
The unlimited amounts of dark money because of Citizens United.
Yeah.
Every election cycle, more and more and more is being spent. It's out of control.
That's an understatement.
Yeah. In regards to your earlier call you had, I believe was Jim, you guys had a pretty heated debate over, why people didn't show up. And, Patty, I called your show shortly after the election, and I shared with you that my son in his mid-20s told me, Dad, the Democrats are never going to win another election unless they get this social media thing under control. And
not this kind of control.
No. And with that said, we have the DNC chair election coming up in February, and we need some young blood in there. Someone like David Hogg, I think, would be good because
I don't think he's running for the DNC chair. I think he's running vice chair. Yeah.
Vice chair.
Yeah.
But he would be part of the system, and with that said, he would be bringing in young people that are, literate and capable of running a social media program to reach out to these young people. I think they've been barraged with so much negativity, just based on our corporate media pumping crap every day. And with that said, I was on a call Monday with Our Revolution, had all the candidates running for this year, and Martin O'Malley was one guy that stuck out at me. He addressed this. Got to do a better job of informing people, and part of his plan is to, every 2 weeks, send out a blast and inform the people what Democrats are doing, what bills they're voting for, and why they're voting.
We definitely have a lot of work ahead of us. I agree, Derek.
Yeah, I'm a firm believer. I don't think anyone running for DNC chair should have had anything to do with 2024 or 2016, for that matter. I think we need new blood in that game.
We'll talk more about that because I want to switch gears and make sure we get to Skip repairs. I apologize for the delay, Skip. It's kind of been a bit of off the wheels. The wheels came off the
rails.
track.
There it is.
All the things.
That's okay. I'm home entertaining the Olsen twins, and we're having a great time. And, so no problem at all.
I feel a strange way. Ben Kamenos, by the way, the host of Outside the Box in the studio with me out of Appleton,
Ben.
Wisconsin.
How are you?
Cool.
I feel a weird way because you have worked with so many. You're so talented and have had the opportunity to work with so many talented people in iconic moments, and you're part of those iconic memories. I know that we've talked to you about Olivia Newton-John when she passed, and you played Monty alongside Bob Uecker in his role as Harry Doyle in Major League, and we were talking about how it wasn't just about sports with Bob Uecker. It was his storytelling, his charisma. Tell us a little bit about your experience working with Bob Uecker.
Well, I walked up to him first day of shoot, and I was nervous as hell. And I just said, hi, I'm working with you. And, of course, he had a mouthful of food, which he choked on as he tried to answer my question.
You almost killed him then.
I know how to make a first impression, let me tell you.
Oh, my God.
Yes, and so as he got his composure, he said, hi, how you doing? Anyway, we got along great. He was very professional. He was very funny. He was very creative. He was very kind to me. He was just great, and I know we really enjoyed doing the first one in Milwaukee. It was June in Milwaukee, perfect weather, beautiful, comfortable, and none of us knew that this was going to be a hit movie. You never really do,
right?
I thought, oh boy, there's funny stuff in this script, but so a lot of projects do, and they don't go anywhere. But this one, first-time director, David S. Ward, who wrote it, had never directed before. He had written other screenplays like the Malago Greenfields War or something like that. A fairly well-respected drama he had written, that produced. And so here he is, first-time director, and I talked to Tom Berenger in the hotel bar, and he was not happy. He and David were not driving together, and he says, never again, first-time director.
Wow.
I said, well, okay. And then I guess they eventually figured each other out, and it came together. And, of course, the immense success of the first movie, #1 in the nation 2 weeks in a row, and has been a staple ever since. And 5 years later, they asked me back, and this time it's November in Baltimore. So it's 40 degrees out, and we're sitting outdoors in a real broadcast booth, dressed like summer, and just freezing. And the director was sick, and he was ornery, snapping at everybody. And finally, halfway through the shoot, he went to a remote studio, so I guess he could get warm and whatever, and talk to us through a walkie-talkie. So half of that we were directed by a guy we couldn't see. And of course, and he only had a little to do with the writing. Somebody else did most of it. And, of course, the sequels are very seldom as good as the original. It was passable. But
as one of the biggest fans on the planet of the original, the second one was fine, but that first one was just gold.
Such magnificent characters. I mean, it was really fantastic.
To this day, I tell people they don't have any marbles, and it's part of my vernacular, so it absolutely is. It's touched a lot of millennials, I can tell you that much.
Oh, isn't it funny how many lines from the movie are quoted to this day? It's just crazy. I did a few years ago. I did one of these big expo movie star things in New Jersey, and I was with Tom Berenger and Corbin Burnson and Chelsea Ross, who's a fine actor, lives in Chicago area. And people would come up to me, and they were almost in tears. You don't know how much I love you. I've watched you so many times. And there are people that can tell you every line in the movie. They have the entire movie memorized. Wow. I mean, it's just crazy. And here we are back in 1988. I'm 40 years old, and sick as hell. I had all kinds of problems because due to an insecticide exposure, I was barely hanging on, just doing the best I could. And the first day I got no feedback from the director whatsoever. Not a word. And I'm thinking, boy, I must really suck. He can't even bring himself to say anything to me. So the next day he walks up to me in the morning and says, hey, we just watched The Rushes, and you're really funny.
Oh.
And I'm thinking, well, there's a left-handed compliment. He thinks I'm funny. Didn't even bother to watch me the whole first day of shooting. Like, what? Boy, am I important.
Well, what were you? So the booth was that on a soundstage? You're not in a real broadcaster's booth.
We're in the old county stadium, Brewer Stadium, which I don't believe exists anymore. I believe they tore it down. They got it because I think it was built by the same guy that built Cleveland, only it was a little smaller. They couldn't get Cleveland. David S. Ward is from Cleveland, so this was sort of like his story of eventually getting the Cleveland to win, something. And they did exterior shots in Cleveland, of course, their stadium. But no, we were in Milwaukee. That's why they came to Chicago to flesh out the cast. And I auditioned. Do you remember Jane Alderman casting?
Of course, yeah.
Okay. Yes, yeah, that's where it was. And most of my audition, I was auditioning for a baseball player from an opposing team who was at bat. Oh. And I was told to bring ball and glove to make sure that prove that I could play baseball, which I can or could. Well, I don't know about now. Certainly back then. But and then they said, okay, read a line for Color Man. Okay, and I had one line, and I'm going to have to clean it up for radio. It was, you can't say damn on the air. To Euchre. And I kind of did a take like, I hope nobody heard, I look around like, I hope nobody heard that and so on. And they laughed. And I figured, oh, damn, I blew, not feeling well. I blew another audition. I was kind of depressed. 2 weeks later, I get a call from my agent at Harris Davidson, and Glenn says, you're Color Man. Could have knocked me over with a feather.
Wow.
And the original language, Bob Euchre was not comfortable with, on that line anyway. So they had to clean it up to that GD. You can't say GD on the air. But it was a little stronger than that.
Okay.
And funnier, but Bob was doing beer commercials. I think he was worried about, I don't know, his image, conflicting or whatever. So we cleaned up a little bit. No biggie. The essence of the scene was still there. But Bob was great. First when we had downtime, we went to an adjacent studio that was empty, broadcast booth. and he just told me one-on-one baseball anecdotes.
Oh, wow.
You know, the stuff he'd go on Carson and tell, you know, all those stories. He's telling me to my face, one-on-one. I couldn't believe it. It's like, wow, I'm making my first movie, and Bob Uecker is sitting here and telling me baseball stories. I couldn't pinch myself enough.
Well, you posted a beautiful piece, and folks, so if I'll skip your Paris on Facebook, you can read what he wrote. Because there was, I remember my dad joking about, you know, well, he wasn't that great of a ball player, I'll tell you that much. The thing is, he played in the majors, but, you know.
That's right.
But the thing was that he, you know, he found that path. Not everybody does that, and of course, it's his charisma, it's his storytelling. Do you? I mean, how? Well, I don't know much about how he got started. Do you have any background on how that?
No, I'm not.
Yeah,
I'm not an expert at that, or as I think of it here now, probably anything else either. But certainly not how he began. But I guess he always had a sense of humor from things I've watched. He was always funny from a teenager.
Right.
And from the people that I have talked to, I've been doing interviews like crazy. And people that knew him said he was always ready to tell stories, and he was very accessible, very personable, and he handled things incredibly well. I remember we'd be ready to do a shoot. By the way, we had no rehearsal for any of these scenes or anything. We just did them, and so they hand him this rewritten speech. And they said, "Oh, we wrote this." So he's down here, he's looking at it, and he's memorizing. He said, "Okay," and he'd shoot it, and he'd nail it. He would nail it. I mean, he was just really amazing at what he did. He was comfortable. Of course, he came up with a number of lines that wound up being, you know, used in the movie. So part of my job was to not laugh. I mean, it was as funny to me as it is to the audience today. You know, but I'm playing a character, and had to stay in it. But he was great. It's a terrible loss for everybody. I didn't know how old he was. At 90, I guess that makes sense.
Yeah.
And what a full, varied life: television, movies, broadcast booth for the Milwaukee Brewers since I don't know when. What, 50 years? I'm not sure.
You know what's interesting is I'm a Wisconsin transplant. I have no allegiance. I mean, I understand what happened. I'm working in a room filled with people who have actively been inspired by this guy, who are in radio because of what they saw, and his ability to transcend is just unparalleled. It seems like every city has that guy. I mean, you guys have Harry Carey down here. We got everything, but he was a rare breed for sure.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I was just what a great thing to be able to work with him, and that people still care about those movies. They still, they still are played. There's so many fans of them, particularly the first one, of course.
Well, there's something about baseball in movies because it's so much of it is about that camaraderie, but also like, you know, the little kid in all of us, right? That's partly Bob Uecker and you in the booth is like, you know, you're also so invested in it, and I mean, like the going back and forth between the action and the field and you guys is just delicious. I think is the best way to put it.
Yeah, thank you. Well, of course, the field scenes were shot at a different time.
Right,
so
You're not watching the game, right?
For people that are not familiar with movie making, we're working to an empty stadium for the most part, you know, and just acting like they're there.
Did you guys get to hang out during any of the scenes where they're playing?
No, I wasn't there. We shot on the weekend, so it was like 3 long days. Everything else shut down. So we were the focus, and that was the same thing with both movies. There was one scene they shot from behind us, I remember, and so they had a team on the field and some people in the stands. And I remember that the field on the team were extras. So they were not right. It was far enough away that you could have extras out there, and you know you couldn't tell. Now
they're like, we're not playing for Skip and Bob.
Did you ever work with Bill Leff. Do you know Bill at all?
So his line, actually, it's funny because I worked at Hard Rock Cafe, so they had all of the stuff with him and Randy Quaid, the fans in the stands. And
sure.
And so Steve and I, for years, would be like, too high, I thought. We just one of Bill Leff's lines, yes.
Yes. He probably came up with that. I don't know for a fact, but I'm guessing he did. Very funny guy, very personable guy, and his deal was he was the one that kind of kept the extras in the audience. He was the one that got on a microphone and kind of kept them all interested. With whatever. Now, he agreed to do it as long as he got a part in the movie.
Brilliant.
Yeah, so that part that he, the fanatic fans, he got because he okay, I'll do it. Give me a part. And they said, okay. And good thing he did. He was great, and he's doing that cartoon show now, which is quite good. But anyway, enough about Bill. I gave him way too more time than he deserved today, but that's all right. He's got plenty of success, and he used to open for me. He used to do a lot of featuring at Zanies.
Yeah.
And the one joke that I don't remember anything else but one joke, and he did it every show. I think as he was getting ready to wrap up his set, he would back up and bump into his mic stand, and he'd go, "Oh, Karen Carpenter." And I thought,
That's right. I remember. Yep. Too funny.
I thought, that's really in bad taste and really funny. So mixed feelings about that. Everybody's roaring ooh. Anyway, so here we are, and people are still interested. So we shot the first one in '88. How many years ago is that? Is that
36, because I was born in '87. So
okay. Oh wow!
Okay.
Sorry to do that, guys. Sorry to do that, everybody.
Wow.
Fine.
Yeah, I don't mind being ancient and decrepit and left behind. I don't mind that at all. It doesn't bug me. But here I am talking to everybody today. Everybody wants a little piece of Bob Uecker, and I'm for some people, the closest thing they can get to, and I'm happy to because it was such a great experience, and he was such a great guy, and so talented, so funny, so competent. One of the last times I don't know if it was the last time I saw him or not. I'd go visit him at Wrigley Field occasionally when he'd do play-by-play for the Brewers, and I'd visit in the broadcast booth, appropriately enough. And he had done the movie Major League Back to the Minors, which was not an official part of the Major League franchise, but somehow they got right to the name or whatever. And he wasn't going to do it, and I wasn't asked to be a part of it. Then they offered him so much money, he couldn't turn it down. But I can't say what he said on the air here. I can't say what it was. It effing sucked. It effing sucked. He said nobody knew what they were doing. None of them even knew anything about baseball. He said it was so horrible, but he took the money and ran.
Hey. Yeah.
Well, and he didn't have me. What did he expect?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Think how much better it would have been. That was absolutely their mistake. We've been talking to Skip Paris, who plays Monty in the films Major League 1, Major League and Major League 2. Major League, of course, such a incredible, iconic, those scenes with you and Bob Uecker. You guys, as funny as he was, it was definitely improved and amplified by your presence and your performance. So thank you so much for sharing your memories of Bob Uecker.
Oh, sure.
Thank you, Skip.
Absolutely. Always happy to talk with you, and have a great rest of the show, and we'll see you one of these days again in person.
You have a gig coming up again, yes? You have a gig coming up?
I do.
Please.
Yes, February 21st. I'll be back at the Joliet Bicentennial Theater. I'll be doing my Heroes of Rock show. It'll be 1952 through 1979. I'll be doing it in chronological order. I do the songs, talk about the heroes. There's humor in it, of course, and extremely entertaining. I just did it in Bolingbrook last week, and amazing crowd and reception. So please, everybody, come on out. It's a beautiful theater near downtown Joliet, right near the bridge, and hope to see everybody. Thank you for letting me plug it.
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much, Skip. We'll look forward to talking to you again.
Okay, thanks, guys. See you later.
See you later.
Okay. You too, bye.
Let's take a break here. We'll continue our conversation. We've got Ben Cominos, guest co-hosting in studio with us. I'm going to watch, I think I'm going to watch Major League over again this weekend.
Yeah, that sounds nice.
And thank you to our friends listening on KTNF, AM 950, Minneapolis, St. Paul.
Hey Google, play WCPT.
Streaming Chicago's progressive talk from TuneIn.
I think I'm like way behind on commercials here. Let me see. Let me take care of
we missed a break.
But we missed all kinds of breaks.
Yeah.
Let me get rid of this. Let me play this real quick and then come back to our callers in a moment on WCPT 820. Oh, no, I don't think I have to do that.
No?
No, that's the next break. All right.
Are you sure? Are you sure about that? Because
not.
I feel like we skipped the 8:30 break and now we have an 8:45 break.
No, I think we're good.
Okay,
right?
all right.
Just give me a thumbs. I think she just fixed it for me.
I mean, I've done one show. I'm talking to you like I know what the hell I'm talking about.
Because I run my own board, like I'm a little loosey-goosey, whereas like other people, they need to make sure you're on time.
Sure,
so,
yeah.
Because I run this board. You don't run your board. Run your board.
I run my own board.
You do.
And
so you know.
out times are suggestions to me. That's a running gag.
This is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I hear you.
Let me get the Jim first. I know someone's calling back, but let me get the Jim. Jim, did Jim call the first hour?
Yeah, he did. I feel like I'm going to get yelled at again.
Hey, Jim.
Patty, I was going to just wish you the safest trip to New Orleans.
I don't know if I'm going to make it because I just got an alert today that my flight might be canceled because of the weather coming out of the Gulf Coast. So.
Oh my God!
I know.
And I was hoping. Lou Rawls is a great singer from Chicago. He identified these kind of days in Chicago as the Hawk.
Yeah.
You know, there's no feeling like Chicago when it's freezing. You know what I mean? You know you're in Chicago when you get that feeling. But I hope you get out, Patty, because anybody who deserves a reprieve from this insanity.
Thank you, Jim.
I was going to say that I love Euchre. I never miss Euchre's broadcast. I listen to Milwaukee. In fact, I'm a Milwaukee Brewer fan. You know, as far as the National League goes, I hate the Chubbies. I can't stand the Chubbies. I could never even look at the Chubbies. In fact, when they lose, I'm delighted. You know what I mean? Since I've been a kid. You know what I mean? I'm the happiest guy in town. But anyway, but I love Euchre. Euchre can sell anything. When he talked about ice cream and brats and stuff like that, you can almost taste it. I mean, he was just terrific. But Patty, if you do get in or out of town, I live and die by these Notre Dame games.
Oh, yeah.
And I live and die by these games. And I haven't missed a game since 1966. And I watch it in complete silence. I can't go anywhere. I have to sit somewhere in a room and just listen in total silence, like a silent movie. I have to watch it. And I live and die by it. And that's how many years is that? That God almighty, 60 years. But the first time we've been playing for the national championship since '88. And I've got everything crossed: my eyes, my feet, my nose, and everything else. Anyway, Patty, I hope you get out of town.
Thanks.
Because, I was just glad you get out of town, and you and your guests, and you guys have a great weekend. And thank you, Patty.
Appreciate it. Thank you. I want to address one of the stories that Skip prepares. I think that he wanted to sort of like tie it into people that I knew when we were talking about Major League and one of the actors that was in the film. And he was talking about comedian Bill Leff, who and Bill was like, I think that Bill always wanted to get into broadcasting. I think that stand-up was not his calling necessarily. Like it wasn't what drove him. And so Skip was referring to a joke that he used to make that was, I think, one, I had to explain it to Ben. So Ben was laughing just kind of out of like, I'm not sure if I get that. And for me, it was remembering that he did that joke. So I want to apologize for that being, it's an unkind and unnecessary thing that Bill, I think at the time, and I don't even want to go into like, it was a different time kind of a thing. There's a dark side of comedy that people have, and it wasn't, and so I apologize. So it wasn't even a demand from a listener. Yeah. It was just a request, and I appreciate that, and I agree. So let me take a break here, and we'll continue our conversation when we come back on WCPT 820 Heartland Signal.
Hey Google, play WCPT.
Streaming Chicago's progressive talk from TuneIn.
Patti Vasquez is taking your calls now at 773-763-9278. Driving it home with Patti Vasquez now on WCPT 820.
You're welcome, my friend, at 847. I just popped on one of our next callers, but it sounds like I'm on speakerphone or he's driving through the wind tunnels. David in Chicago, what do you got? I don't know if I can handle it. Like, I have a real sensory thing when it comes to sound. David, do you have a window rolled down? What's going on? Are you, like, in a tundra? What's happening where you are right now?
You just blowing into your speaker?
Oh, okay. Let's go back to Derek real quick. He wants to call, he's calling back from Elgin. I'm sorry I had to cut you off earlier, but I had to get to Skip. Thank you for calling back. What's on your mind, Derek?
Oh, real quick, great conversation about Bob Uecker and Harry Carey. And add to that, two of the best.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'll throw Bob Prince in there, too, to get the Pirates in there.
Right, okay.
That's fun.
I'm going to keep this short. Our call got dropped on it. The last point I'm going to make is a request. I'm asking that you and Ben and Joan, Tom Hartman, Randy Rhodes, stop referring to those on the right side of the aisle as Republicans. That party's been hijacked. Start referring to them as the fascist party. That's what they are, and we're going to see it in short order. With that said, have a great weekend.
He's like, I'm going. You go ahead. He's like, discuss amongst yourself. Thanks, Thanks, Derek.
You know, Patty, he does bring up a point. I don't know if I'd go as far as calling them fascists, but I do believe the MAGA party and the Republican Party are two separate things. In 2020, I said this country is, and I think it's only exacerbated now, it's coming with a reckoning that we are four parties, because I absolutely do not identify as a Democrat. And there's a lot of Republicans that are not what classic Republican is. Whichever party can figure out how to reconcile that first, I think, is going to go forward. There
was a great piece yesterday that I was reading, and I'll have to find it and share it. But it was about the moderates, right? And there's this disdain for being a moderate if you don't. It's not standing for something, right? But there's also this idea about, like, if you think about how Abraham Lincoln approached every single step of what he was doing. He's very methodical on how he decided whether it was the Emancipation Proclamation, the 13th and 14th Amendments, and it had to be done through, Doris, I can never remember, Doris Kearns Goodwin, her book about, how he created this cabinet of basically a lot of his enemies and how we were going to do this. And it was about winning, in part, public opinion, convincing people that this is the right way to go before taking the largest steps necessary. But we don't have anybody that's that masterful at doing it because, to your point, they are taking the money from the billionaires and the corporations in order to shape the way we have policy. And so we don't have anybody that's capable of doing that, of working with everybody. It is the all or nothing on both sides.
There's a guy who calls my show from West Virginia that I refer to as Captain Blue MAGA, because Joe Biden cannot do any wrong. The Democrats are always in the right. The housing crisis is a myth, because if it were real, Democrats would have fixed it.
Oh, no.
The cost of living crisis is a myth, because if it were real, Democrats would be fixing it. He called me today to say, did you see Senator Sanders grilling the Treasury Secretary about an oligarchy? And I said, I did. And he goes, does he not own a comb? And I'm like, okay, I'm glad that's what you took out of the entire conversation of all of this. And it's just, it's not like I'm offended. I'm not. I said, yeah, he is disheveled. And you know what else? He's been saying the same thing since 2009. And now it seems like all your heroes are parodying it in 2025. So
to that, though, I would say the distinction between Bernie Sanders and wanting to do what is right and is in many ways radical, in contrast to Abraham Lincoln, never has built a coalition amongst his own, inside his own party, right?
Yeah.
It is always his way or the highway. I mean, like, you look at him at the DNC when Hillary was taking the nomination. I mean, he was like a grouchy. I mean, like, when he was running. I mean, this is the hard part of a primary is that you, in order to win, you have to tear everybody down around you, and you decimate any sort of like coalition. He's not about building coalitions amongst even in his own party.
You set me up here. I feel like I should bite my tongue.
No,
We're
ahead.
So close to the end. Okay, in the primary in 2016, and let's use West Virginia as an example. There's 55 counties in West Virginia. Bernie Sanders won all 55 counties. He also won the popular vote as well.
Okay.
At the primary, Hillary Clinton got 19 delegates, and Bernie Sanders got 18 from West Virginia. The exact same thing, not exact same, shouldn't say exact. but it was a super delegate thing. It reminds me of a fake elector slate making its way into Wisconsin in 2020. I'd be pretty sour about it, too, if I knew I had the majority of the votes.
So sour overcomes what's right. I mean, I get it. I get that you can be sour and salty and angry.
He won the most votes. He should have had the most delegates.
And here's the thing, and I get that. So where do we get from him being salty and sour and not moving forward from there, that emotion? Right. I live with grudges and anger, but I'm not somebody who's in charge of or has the position and the power and the popularity he had amongst people like you to move in. I don't know what the answer is here. I'm just saying I get that rage, and he helped feed that too.
Sure.
I'm just saying.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I just, to me, and I'm not even saying he's the answer because he'd be like 80,000 years old by the time 2028 rolls around. I'm just saying, he has been consistent. You now see Democrats saying, oh, did you know the pharmaceutical industry is colluding to keep prices high? Oh, you don't say. He was doing marches to Canada in 2009. Right. It's like that kind of stuff.
Okay, now everyone's calling thing. Let me say hi to Evie real quick.
Hey, you're setting me up for failure.
No. Hey, Evie. No, Evie's not going to set you up for any failure. Hey, Evie, what's going on, my friend?
Bob Uecker was in the Milwaukee Brewers in 50 to 59, and then he was on this show called Baseball Bunch in San Diego Chicken.
Yeah. You're a fan of Bob Uecker's, it sounds like.
Yeah.
Excellent.
I love that.
Oh, thank you for sharing that trivia for folks who might not have known. Have a good weekend,
I
Evie.
surely didn't.
Yeah, there you go. Thank you. And Dave in Hoffman Estates, what's on your mind, Dave?
On the announcers, what about Ernie Harwell, one of the greatest? He's announced for the Tigers.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that one, actually. Growing up in Pittsburgh, we didn't have a real baseball team, so I don't know a whole lot of the history from that perspective, but that name doesn't resonate me as much as the other ones.
Wow. And anyway, no, he was the best. And then and do you think, real quick, do you think that Barron Trump will influence Donald on the TikTok?
Oh, sure.
I
think Barron's all in on the bro podcast and all that stuff. So I think it's going to be impactful. I got to wrap up with Ben here before we end the show. So thank you so much, Dave. Have a good weekend. I didn't even get a chance to find out about Joe's on Higgins, your pizza experience last night. And you've been told it's not real Chicago pizza. I would disagree.
Yeah.
I'm not interested in the rest of the conversation.
Yeah.
Thin crust, well done pizza, tavern cut is Chicago pizza.
Even Jerry was giving me crap because I only eat cheese pizza.
That's fine.
I only eat I won't put toppings on there.
Did he tell you to get it well done with because it caramelizes the cheese? And
I'm a well done guy. You don't need to tell me about well done. I'm telling you, Patty, it was like I had steak for the first time.
I'm telling you,
because
isn't that great?
It was so good, and the pizza in Wisconsin so bad.
It's the water. Although we have the same water, so I don't know.
I don't get it, but it's seriously. It was like I've been walking around blind my whole life, and then I was like, oh, that's right. Pizza is this good when it's actually made correctly.
Was it your first thin crust Chicago pizza?
It was my first. Yeah, I haven't been to Chicago in a decade, probably longer.
We have an adventure to go on next time.
I love it.
Because Lou Malnati's, people also think of, so we could do a side by side. Lou Malnati's has great deep dish pizza.
Okay.
They also have spectacular butter crust thin
there
tavern.
It is.
Oh my god!
Yeah, you get me.
I mean, come on.
Yeah, no, that's just
stuff.
it. Yeah, no, I look forward to it.
So I'm not setting you up for anything. I just, I got my thoughts too.
I know. I love it. Exactly. I wish we had another hour.
I know. We need to do this more often. So next time I can come and hope maybe I should figure out about getting a booking at the Skyline. I'll reach out to those guys maybe.
Yeah, I love it.
And do a comedy show and come hang out with you I love Appleton, Wisconsin.
Yeah, it's a solid place.
It's awesome. Well, Ben, remind folks how they can find your show and tune in every day.
Yeah, search
After they listen to our show. I'm just kidding.
Of course. Yeah, you can do both. I was listening to you. I listen to you on Spotify. Just WHBY. Search it in any app place ever. You can look at Spotify. You can look at Apple Podcasts. Any of the places it's available.
Outstanding. Well, Ben, have a great evening. Randy Rhodes is up next, followed by Matt McNeil. Lady B, happy anniversary of being cancer-free. We love you. We're so happy for you. And I hope you have a wonderful weekend and celebrate. Okay? Take care. Bye, everybody.